Well, it's been a little more than a month in real time since shots rang out at a Butler, Pennsylvania campaign rally. That campaign rally was for former President Trump. Well, today we're going to take a fresh look with new stuff at one of the greatest failures of the Secret Service. This and more on this episode of Charlie Crimebuster. Yep, it's what some people are calling the fastest minutes in podcasting.
The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are solely those of the individuals interviewed or participating and do not represent those of city, county, state, or federal law enforcement agencies, nor sponsors and platforms of this presentation. Charlie Crimebuster, CharlieCrimebuster.com, and PeacemakerNetwork.com are copyrights owned by Charlie Crimebuster. All individuals described or mentioned in the presentation should be considered innocent until found guilty in a court of law. This presentation contains subject matter such as violence and graphic descriptions which may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener and viewer discretion is advised.
Well, good day and welcome to another episode of Charlie Crimebuster. Sure glad to have you on the Charlie Crime train today. As always, we invite you to reach out with a shout out. You can reach me, Charlie Crimebuster, at gmail.com. CharlieCrimebuster@gmail.com. You can make suggestions about future episodes you'd like to hear about. You can even lodge objections if you don't agree with what we talk about. And of course, you can also find an opportunity to just reach out and say hi. We would love to hear from you. Reach us again with a shout out, CharlieCrimebuster@gmail.com. Now, I'd like to also invite you to jump on over to PeacemakerNetwork.com. There you're going to find the brave men and women who run toward danger instead of away from danger, and you can be a part of helping support those folks. You can become a badge, BADGE supporter. You can read all about it at PeacemakerNetwork.com. That's where we support law enforcement, first responders, and the brave men and women of the military. That's PeacemakerNetwork.com. Hey, by the way, if you haven't subscribed to today's podcast, please do so. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to look us up on YouTube. Every week, we talk about our episodes, and we bring you more information as it develops. So again, let me invite you to reach out with a shout out, CharlieCrimebuster@gmail.com. Check out PeacemakerNetwork.com. If you'd like to get caught up on other episodes, go to CharlieCrimebuster.com. We're going to make it real easy for you. We're putting all those links right in the show notes. You know what to do after that, right? Well, today, my friend, we're going to take a fresh look at the shooting. A shooting that will involve some new news that you already know about, combined with some new stuff that we have learned all about that terrible, terrible day in July the 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania, when a gunman took a shot at the former president. Well, it's been a little over a month now since Thomas Crooks at that rally there in Butler, Pennsylvania. He shot, of course, an AR-15 style rifle from a nearby rooftop. That was while Trump was giving a speech. We all know now he hit Trump's ear, killed one attendee, while officially injuring two others critically before being killed by the Secret Service counter sniper team. Now, according to investigation, well, his motive, it still remains unknown, even though the FBI, is now investigating the case and has been. Now, it's kind of hard to figure out his motive because in January 21, he actually donated $15 to a voter turnout group with a Democratic platform. But now we all know that he shot at Trump, who is a Republican. And in fact, when he reached the voting age of 18, back in September 21, well, he registered to vote in Pennsylvania as a member of the Republican Party and remained a registered Republican until his death. So now we're going to take a fresh look at this case, which includes this shooter, Thomas Crooks. And we also want to point out some new stuff as well. We've already told you that you always take a look at a person's digital footprints. James and I talk about that all the time during the Charlie Crime Talk YouTube channel. And we do know that he did search about information about how far it was that Oswald was when he took a shot at Kennedy. He also searched information about prominent politicians, including Trump and information about the Democratic Convention. Yep, he was truly searching for a target, we know now, and there were some new stuff about some of his personal searches. We had already reported that he had searched for information about depression and also about other things. And as I tell you about, we find out that most of these people, particularly people who are active shooters, they do not live really fulfilled lives. And something was going on in his brain as well, because he was searching, trying to find out about depression. Yep, there's usually a deep dissatisfaction in these people's lives. Hey, let me take a moment. Parents, take time to keep your children engaged. Engage them in the community with positive ways, sports, hobbies, that kind of thing. Take them fishing. You'd be surprised how just spending time can make a difference. Now, I did promise you some new stuff, so we also know, believe it or not, he searched for pornography. Yep, pornography. And there's a new photo now of him at the rally that has emerged that shows him holding his phone and looking at it. Now, we do not know if he was calling or speaking or not, but he was on the phone for sure. It would be interesting to know, don't you think, if he was talking to someone, who that was, and what did he say. But none of that's been revealed at this time. But let us speculate. If he did call someone, who was it that he called? What did he say? Why did he call? Or did someone call him? All of this would be of great interest. What do you think about that time he was there looking at his phone, maybe talking to someone? Hey, if you have an idea of what might have happened, reach out with a shout out, charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. Now, in another past episode, I believe the last one, I shared the various stages of an active shooter prior to the event. Stages, my friend, if you can intervene, well, it may actually stop an active shooter. And one of those stages, if you remember, yep, it was practice, right? Practice, rehearsing the event, if you please. You see, they now have published records from Clariton Sportsman Club that was reviewed by CNN, and it shows that Crooks visited the gun range, wow, get this now, total of 43 times. 43 times after he established a membership in August of 23. Yep. Less than a year before that assassination attempt, he had been to the gun range 43 times. Now, sign-in sheets provided to one of the Republicans that was on one of the committees. It also indicates that he spent the majority of his time at a rifle range. Yep, rifle range, other than designated areas for firing pistols or shotguns, and especially in the months immediately preceding the rally, where he actually used that same type of weapon to shoot Trump. And Cooks also attended target practice at the club 3 to 6 times per month in 2024. 3 to 6 times per month. Made his final visit 2:45 p.m. Friday, July the 12th. Did you get that? Final visit, one day before the Trump rally. So here was someone who certainly practiced, someone who did take the time to practice and rehearse. Now, I'm going to be the very first to say that just because somebody likes to shoot as a hobby, maybe to be ready to defend themselves or their family, well, that does not mean that they would be a candidate for the next active shooter. I'm not saying that at all. No. But now, hang with me. If that same person who did all that shooting at the gun range that we just revealed to you is also ordering material to put together explosive bombs, ones like the one found in his vehicle, Cook's vehicle, well, my friend, then maybe we better intervene, don't you think? Yep, maybe we better intervene. Now, there's somebody who's not a very happy camper about this thing. It's a guy by the name of Clay Higgins. He is a representative from Louisiana. And he had some stuff to say about the investigation. You see, he wanted to see the body as he went there to Butler, Pennsylvania, but he could not find the body. Why? Well, the body of the 20-year-old who tried to assassinate the former president, it was gone, G-O-N-E, when Representative Higgins tried to inspect it as part of an investigation. That is what he revealed in a preliminary investigation report. Now, Higgins, again, a Louisiana Republican who's on the House Task Force investigating the shooting, he did detail some of his findings after his 3-day trip to Butler earlier this month. Now, in the report, he wrote that he attempted to examine Crooks's body, but was unable to do so. And he alleged, he stepped it up there, he alleged the FBI was obstructing further investigative efforts. He went on to say, my efforts to examine Crook's body on Monday, August the 5th, what it caused quite a stir, revealed a really disturbing fact, he said. You see, the FBI did release the body to be cremated after 10 days after the event. That's what Higgins wrote in his report. He said the Butler County coroner technically had legal authority over the body, but he said he spoke to the coroner, and the coroner said he would have never released the body to the family without specific permission from the FBI. Hey, he's also upset because they released the crime scene, even scrubbed the crime scene of biological evidence. He goes on to say this action by the FBI now, the FBI can only be described by any reasonable man as obstruction to following investigative effort. Hey, his report also said the coroner's report and the autopsy report, by the way, are late. He goes on to explain it this way. He said, the problem with me not being able to examine the actual body is now I will not know for 100% if the coroner's report and the autopsy report are accurate. We will never actually know. Oh yeah, we'll get reports and pictures, but we'll never be able to say with certainty that those reports and pictures are accurate, according to my own examination of the body. He submitted his report to the chairman on Monday, and they said that the congressman's findings so far, they're not exhaustive or final. And they went on to say about it, every question will be answered, every theory explored, every doubt erased. Went on to say, Higgins said, the American people deserve full truth on the attempted assassination of President Trump. So, he's not a happy camper because the FBI released the body and the FBI released the scene too soon for Mr. Higgins. But now the FBI, they fired back. Yep, they fired back at those claims. The agency says it refutes allegations of Representative Clay Higgins of Louisiana, who says he requested to view Crook's body on August 5th. Nobody on the ground in Butler knew it had been handed back to the suspect's family on July 23rd. And the FBI spokesman says, he says any suggestion the agency is interfering with congressional efforts to look into the attempted assassination is inaccurate, unfounded. The agency went on to say that Crook's body was released to his family after coordination with the coroner's office, as well as coordinating with state and local law enforcement partners, and that it was in keeping of quote-unquote normal procedures. I guess I should note also that, Higgins, he is a former police captain, so it's not as though someone is commenting on this that does not understand police policies. But what say ye? Hey, we'd love to hear your own opinion on the fact that the body was turned over after just 10 days. And according to reports, the crime scene was lifted in just 3 days. Is that enough time to thoroughly investigate this crime? On one hand, not a lot to add to the fact we all know it was Thomas Crooks who was doing the shooting, right? Is there really a reason to keep that crime scene beyond 3 days? Higgins says yes. And he said it should have been well known to the FBI because they knew there were congressional hearings coming on the scene. What say ye? Would love to hear about it. Hey, reach out, shout out, Charlie Crimebuster, gmail.com. Now next we're going to talk a little more about the Secret Service and their part in this tragic sequence of events. And while the former president dodged that killer bullet, let's not forget one other person did not. Yep, we're going to have another fresh look at the failure of the Secret Service. Some new stuff about that failure. All coming up. But right now, it's time for what we call our Crazy Crook Story. Our Crazy Crook Story today is about a convicted felon in 3 different Florida counties. And this particular felon eluded law enforcement for most of November this past year, but authorities, they tracked her down not too long ago. WFLA reports that Citrus County Sheriff's Office had been searching for 39-year-old Stacy Usher, who, according to its November A Facebook post, they said that she had a history of fraud, grand theft, obtaining property by a worthless check. The post also noted that Usher is a registered convicted felon from Citrus, Manatee, and Pasco counties, and that she was actually currently wanted for a parole violation for the sale of fentanyl and unlawful use of a two-way communication device. Now, it's not really clear what that alleged parole violation entailed, but it is clear, that this hide-and-seek, it may not have been her best expert experience. Because Fox 13 reported deputies were searching her residence, and get this, hold on to it, they found her hiding inside a couch. No, I'm not making it up. This lady was in her residence hiding inside a couch. And now, of course, she's back in custody. So this convicted felon who was on the run, who decided the best place to hide was inside a couch. I guess, my friend, that would change the phrase couch potato to couch felon. And my friend, that is Charlie Crimebuster's Crazy Crook of the Week. Now back to our main focus. Trump's shooting, fresh look, and some new stuff. Now, in one of our other past episodes, we went into detail about how planning for the event took place. Now, in an even earlier episode, I told you we'd probably find out a whole lot more about what we did not know when we were able to look at the plan of action that's put together by those who are protecting the protectee. Now, while we may not have seen the original plan of action, and we may never really see it, might be that's something they hold to their vest, we do have information that is shared about what that planning looked like. It did appear that on July the 8th, 5 days before the event, the Pittsburgh field office, they started planning meetings, did a site walkthrough of local law enforcement and campaign staff. July the 8th, they began planning again with a walkthrough. July the 10th, the counter-sniper technical security personnel arrived in person in Pittsburgh, and they began their own advanced planning for their teams. On the 12th, they began to build out the rally site, and the 13th, there was a site briefing early in the morning with Secret Service personnel and law enforcement partners supporting the event. Now, while that may seem organized and well planned for some, my friend, not so with others. Some of those with boots on the ground did not think that this was well planned out. In newly released records, we now have some light on the chaotic security planning ahead of July the 13th rally, where questions about law enforcement's coordination with Secret Service have been mounting and mounting. Those documents were made public on Friday. They reveal behind-the-scenes tensions, decisions that preceded this tragic event. And here is a whopper. This is Butler County Sheriff Michael Sloop. He said in an email on July the 5th, quote, unquote, it's going to be a circus there. Wow. Now, the advanced team, they do designate the security perimeters, the zones. They assign agents and supporting law enforcement accordingly. The inner perimeter we know is closest to the candidate or the protectee. Middle perimeter, then within the venue, then the further away is the outer perimeter. Now, the building the gunman scaled on that fateful Saturday was outside the inner security perimeter. However, it was only about 148 yards from where Trump was speaking, well within range of the gunman's rifle. Now, that building, owned by Glass Research Company, listen to this, was noted as a, quote, point of interest in 2 advanced security meetings. That's what Butler's township's manager said. 2 people with the planning told NBC News that the building was identified by the Secret Service as vulnerability and required specific attention. And on police body cameras after that shooting, You can hear for yourself one officer say that he definitely told Secret Service to post someone on the very roof where Thomas shot from. And another former agent, he asked not to be named, he said the Secret Service, quote, is always in charge of such events, no matter what anyone says. They make the plan, the agent said. Locals need to follow it. But it's up to the Secret Service in every way to make sure that happens. So again, poor planning and not following through. Now, another thing that's, I think, very important to bring out, and we did last time, we're going to give you some new stuff now. Many have blamed the July 13th Trump shooting on the fact that Secret Service and local law enforcement could not communicate with each other due to differing radio systems. We talked about that our last episode about this particular event. Now, here's what the acting director, Ronald Rose, said at an August 2nd press conference. It was also apparent to me in this incident, the final 30 seconds, which has been the focus of what happened before the assailant opened fire, there was clearly radio transmissions that may have happened on the local radio net that we did not have. Now, hold on to that. He said we did not have it. That's what he said August 2nd. But hang on now. According to findings from, again, our representative from Louisiana, Clay Higgins, get this, listen carefully, local police offered Secret Service radios. That's right, they offered them radios so they could be on their frequency, but the agency snipers never retrieved them. That's what Higgins, who's on the House task force to investigate the Trump shooting, said in his preliminary findings on this past Thursday. Again, now listen carefully. The Secret Service did not retrieve radios that had been set aside for them by Butler County Tactical Command. The radio comms were properly and perfectly arranged during the extensive pre-mission planning. That's what the congressman said, who's also a former law enforcement officer. And he goes on now, listen again. On July the 12th, the day before, the Butler County ESU commander personally reminded the Secret Service counter-sniper teams to pick up their assigned radios at the ESU command post, which was positioned according to the planning at the Butler Fairgrounds. The following morning, before 1100 hours, they reminded them to pick up the radios. And then he went on to say, it didn't happen. Now, that claim was further supported when the Washington Post reported the Secret Service command post was even notified at 6:09, 2 minutes before the shooting, that Crooks was on the rooftop. According to the Post, a local Butler, a radio officer, radioed Sergeant Ed Lenz, who was tactical commander at the mobile unit, at 6:08, said, someone's on the roof. I have someone on the roof with white shorts. He then relayed that to the Secret Service Command Center a minute later. There was a state trooper in there, but again, he did not have any radio contact with the Secret Service. Crooks began firing 2 minutes after 6:11. Now, if it is true that communication was actually revealed that way, we do have a different ballgame. As we said last week, it is just inconceivable that the Secret Service did not have access to what was going on with local law enforcement. Local law enforcement had spotted this guy. Local law enforcement was running trying to get to this guy. But you see, the counter snipers who were on the rooftop who could take out the guy and did take out the guy, they could have taken him out before the shooting began. Except for the fact that this local law enforcement chatter that was going around about this guy, this warning that he was on the roof, it never got to the Secret Service because they failed to pick up the radios that was readily available to them where they could listen in to the local law enforcement's chatter. So, there you have it, my friend. A fresh look at this with some new stuff revealed. So before we go, I think we ought to take a moment just to, summarize some of the things that we've been talking about. And I've got 3 things to say in summary. Number 1, while planning did occur, following protocol, follow-through on that plan was incredibly inadequate. That's right, follow-through is incredibly inadequate. Doesn't matter, you can have the greatest plan in the world, but if you don't follow it, what good is that plan? And number 2, listen to this. The roof was not properly covered. The roof was not properly covered. The roof was not properly covered. No, nothing's wrong with this recording. I'm just saying it over and over again because the most glaring part of this whole thing is the roof was not properly covered. Whose fault? Secret Service. Number 3, communication. Yep, communication. If it was set up correctly and followed with real-time communication, well, my friend, this tragic event could have been stopped. Could have been stopped before anyone was wounded and anyone was killed. So what say ye, my friend? Any new news out there that you'd like for us to share about this? Well, reach out with a shout-out. CharlieCrimebuster@gmail.com, CharlieCrimebuster@gmail.com. In fact, if you do that today, if you do that while you're listening to this right now in real time, where you're dropping this on Sunday, if you'll do it today, well, James and I, we can chat about that new stuff that you bring into our attention. We can chat about it on our YouTube episode that we release in the middle of the week. That's right. Now, if you haven't been following those, go to YouTube/Charlie Crimebuster, and you can hear us talk about this episode. In the middle of the week, we take time to talk about the previous episode. So let me encourage you to do that. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to the program, hit that subscribe button, would you? Also, hit that notification so that you can know when the next episode is dropped. We drop these episodes weekly, and in fact, twice a week now with our YouTube channel. So we'd like for you to be on board the Charlie Crime train. Don't forget to check out PeacemakerNetwork.com. And until next time, this is Charlie Crimebuster here saying be safe, be alert. Yep, for the life you save, it may be your very own.
You have been listening to Charlie Crimebuster. You can find additional podcasts at CharlieCrimebuster.com. You can also support our first responders, military, and law enforcement communities at PeacemakerNetwork.com, or subscribe to our YouTube channel using tag @CharlieCrimebuster. Even visit our Facebook page, Facebook.com/CharlieCrimebuster. Or if you would like to make suggestions for future podcasts, please send your ideas to CharlieCrimebuster@gmail.com. That's CharlieCrimebuster@gmail.com. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope that you will join us next week for another exciting crime story with Charlie Crimebuster.